residential care community for senior citizens. And we're anxious to hear all about this. Mr. Mullen, are you going to be the speaker to start?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
And before you do, Ed, I'm sorry, I wanted to, we agreed, I was gonna make a couple opening, comments to clarify before you make the presentation.
I apologize, I meant to turn it over to, I forgot.
Always wait for the solicitor.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Bresnan, I'm the Township's attorney. And I wanted to make some comments about the background here because I think it would be helpful in terms of directing whatever comments are going to be made this evening. A property can be zoned for more than one use, and this property is zoned for more than one use. On the zoning map, it's zoned as open space, but also under the zoning ordinance, it meets the criteria for an institutional use. Jeff, do you have that available?
The zoning map, no, I can get that.
The ordinance language that we have. It's in here. So you see there as a permitted conditional use is a licensed nursing, convalescent, residential care facility, and it goes on. That language has been in place for many years. That language goes back to before the county ever sold the property. It was never changed by this board of supervisors or the previous board of supervisors or the one before that. It's been in place a long time. When the applicant came here a couple of years ago, I guess it was 2 now, and they asked whether the township was interested in making any zoning changes to facilitate the plan that they were then considering. They did not mean, will you change it from open space to institutional? Institutional was already allowed on the property. What they were asking was, will you change some of the criteria in that institutional ordinance to facilitate our plan? And of course, that didn't happen. And then there became sort of a public cry, a lot of signs on yards that said no zoning changes for Parkhouse. And the reason why I'm making these preliminary comments is that I think in that process, an important detail was lost. I know from phone calls I got and conversations I had at Wegmans or wherever, I'm also a township president, that a lot of people thought when they put up a sign that said no zoning change, that they meant don't change it from open space to something else that would allow this project. And that was already on the books. There is no, so what happened was, when they came back now with this plan, they said, okay, we had a prior plan that required some changes to the zoning ordinance and you didn't want to make those. We're now here on a plan that doesn't require an ordinance change. So nobody's asking for an ordinance change anymore. The only ordinance change was to make tweaks on how the actual plan looked. It was never about letting institutional use in for the first time. That has never been in play. And I think there was some confusion about that. So if anybody is here, I'm bringing it up in case anybody was thinking of saying, please don't change it from open space to institutional. It's already zoned for institutional. Now the process that we're here on, just so that everybody understands, is there's 2 things that are pending. One is a tentative sketch application. So when you develop land, you submit first tentative, then preliminary, then final. So there's 3 separate steps in the land development process, and we're only at the first one. At the same time, they're asking for the conditional use approval. See that the use is by conditional use. In the zoning ordinance, there are uses that are permitted, there are uses that are not permitted, and in between there are conditional uses. Those are permitted uses, but they require the proof of additional criteria. They're not just automatically allowed. They're allowed if you prove some additional things. And so the criteria there, well, there's that page, and then there's another page, and yet another one beyond that sets forth some criteria that they have to prove to get conditional use approval, and that is a separate thing from the tentative sketch plan. Conditional use approval is a formal hearing under the zoning ordinance. We'll have a court stenographer here at a later date for them to present their conditional use application, which means proving that they meet the criteria in the ordinance. And the Planning Commission under the law, makes a recommendation to the supervisors on that hearing. And then separately, the tentative sketch plan is pending, which is the first step of 3 in the actual land development process. There are no requests to change an ordinance. There is no challenge to a current existing ordinance. This request is within the confines of the existing ordinance. So with that as, and to follow up on what Tom said, everyone here will get a chance to speak. We decided to go till 10 tonight, and if 10 doesn't do the job, and there are people who have not been heard, we've already planned on coming out for another night, and another night after that, if that's what it takes. Nobody will be denied the opportunity to make public comment if they wish to do so. Sometimes when we have large crowds, what we do ask is if someone says something just the way that you would have said it, that by show of hands, you can sort of indicate that you support what that person said in lieu of, having your own separate time, but you are absolutely entitled to your own time, everybody who's here and everybody who shows up later. Okay, so with that background in, thank you for waiting, Mr. Mullen. I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, excuse me, thank you, Joe, I apologize for missing you. Thank you, I hope that's helpful, that's very helpful, I hope you all find that helpful information that, Mr. President just presented, so please keep that in mind as we hear what's going on here tonight. Okay.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Ed Mullen, Canberra, Reuben, Mullen, Maxwell, and Luton. I'm here representing Moore Sport Holdings LLC, the owners of the tract of ground consisting of approximately 182 acres located on Route 113 between 2nd Avenue, Old State Road, and Yeager Road. Before you tonight, as Joe indicated, is a tentative sketch plan for a residential care facility, along with a request for conditional use for the residential care facility, which would consist of a mixture of single-family detached dwellings, townhomes, multifamily units that would be sold as condominiums and apartments, for a total of 1,203 dwelling units. All of these units would be age restricted to 62 and up. The proposal is for a residential care facility for senior citizens. That is a permitted use in the IN institutional district, as Mr. President said. The plan is a by-right plan. We do not need any rezoning in order to process this plan. The residential care facility is defined in your zoning ordinance as a facility consisting of individual residential living units exclusively for persons who are 62 years of age or older, and for married couples with one spouse or both spouses age 62 or older. Such facility may provide personal care and health care services, including resident nursing beds and nursing care for the living unit. We don't propose any nursing because of the proximity of Parkhouse Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, but we will be providing 45 assisted living units, which is 90 beds. With me tonight are Gary Berman, a member of Moore Sport Holdings LLC, Matt Hammond, traffic engineer from TPD, Ron Cross, civil engineer from Bowler Engineering, Ron Hoyser, planner from Hoyser Design, Eric Hetzel of VH Creative Services LLC, who can discuss the community impact of the proposal, and Brad Klassen of W. Bradford Klassen and Associates, who can deal with market research. We received review letters from Gilmore and Associates dated June 29, 2022, Grace Planning Associates, September 27, 2022, the Township Fire Marshal dated October 6, 2022, McMahon Associates dated June 24, 2022, and Montgomery County Planning Commission dated September 23, 2022. We have reviewed all of those review letters, and we'll address all of them. The township, as you probably know, recently received the CFA grant in the amount of $249,000 for design work of a roundabout at the intersection of Bridlewis Road, Route 113, and 2nd Avenue. Additionally, keep in mind that our proposal will generate approximately $1 million in traffic impact fees. Further, because we have state roads involved, we're going to have to get PennDOT involved in this process. I should mention that we do have some issues with the county planning letter whereas we really don't with the others, but the county planning letter goes on and talks about a lot of things with no citation authority, no ordinance citation, and says that we should have we should end up getting an emergency medical services facility at our location to serve the people that will be living there. Obviously, we're not aware that right across the street, less than 1 mile from our location, there is exactly that, Friendship ambulance and local firemen that will be available for those EMS services. At the conditional use hearing, we will be required to demonstrate that we can comply with section 182, 199B of the zoning ordinance. Generically, I can state that we will not adversely affect public interest. The proposed development will comply with the letter of intent of the zoning ordinance. Public health, safety, and welfare will be protected through proper ingress and egress. All street parking and loading areas, no noise, glare, or odor effects on adjoining properties. We will properly install refuse and service areas and provide all utility screening and buffering as required by the ordinance. We'll comply with the sign ordinance, provide required yards and open spaces, and will generally be compatible with adjacent properties. I should mention that the county also pointed out that the proposal is not in accordance with the Township's 2010 comprehensive plan, which, by the way, is in the process of being revised. However, if you go to page 93 of the 2010 comprehensive plan, you will see language in there that if the county ever decides to sell the property, which when this was done in 2010, this county still owned, that residential development would be the appropriate infill if the county sold, and we should preserve open space to the extent possible. So consider the fact that our proposal is 8.46 dwelling units per acre, permitted by the ordinance is 12 units per acre, so we're roughly at 70% of the permitted density, and in addition, the IM district requires a 50% open space. So half of our site will be open space, and that's preserving open space, in my opinion. Also, as Mr. President knows, section 303C of the municipality's planning code clearly indicates that when zoning is different from the comprehensive plan, the zoning must be followed, not the plan. There's a lot of people here who obviously want to be heard, and so I want to stop talking and give everybody a chance, including the planning commission, to ask questions or have a quick thing.
So, commission members, do any of you have any preliminary questions after Mr. Mullins' statements, or do you want to go right to the public comment? Do you go into public comment? Jeff generally oversees that. I think what you have the list over there.
Carolyn Paymacker, 271 Hackman Road first. Okay, Herbert. Oh, okay, Ed Paymacker?
Yeah.
Same
Okay.
address. Yep. You'll have to answer the mic, sir.
Up to the mic, sir.
Last we spoke of this development and the zoning, there were many requirements for impervious areas. Does this plan meet the percentage of land use that would be impervious? The other thing was there are setbacks that were considerable from the boundary edges. Does this plan meet all those setbacks which were included in our zoning plan?
Those are, I guess, Jen, that would be closest to you. We have, just so you know, people understand, when the township gets an application to develop land, it gets sent out to various consultants. And we have up here on the dais, we have our traffic consultant in Anthony, and in Jen, we have our general civil engineer. They each issue review letters at each step, and then it's a process where, and including impervious and setbacks, knows it would be Jen's office, and then she does a review letter that addresses each of those issues. So normally what happens in this process, every month actually, with a much smaller crowd here on other applications, it's a process of us saying to the person sitting there, you saw our engineer's letter, can you comply with each of these requirements? And then they say, yes, we do comply. In this case, Jen, I think impervious is okay, and you might have had a setback reference in your letter from when I looked at it today.
Yeah, we did, the plan currently showing it is adequate and satisfies the ordinance and any further changes, we just ask them to verify.
And with the impervious areas, also included the impervious area.
Yes,
Setbacks and impervious.
yes, setbacks and impervious and stormwater management.
Next up is
Hubert Noon. Mr. Noon.
I would like to address the issue on Haley Avenue, so I'll wait for that.
Oh, okay. Victoria Bright.
You speak your address for us, too?
Yes,
I have it.
You have it?
Victoria Bright, 364 Vista Drive, and thank you for hosting this. It's been 2 years in the making apparently, so, and I apologize because I just downloaded the packet today off of the township's website to show that there was an agenda. We knew that the meeting was happening, but we didn't actually have the information of the packet, so I've literally had about an hour or so, between work and dinner to review it. So I'm sure that other people have had an opportunity to review it.
Ma'am, if I
as
may?
well.
If I may for a second, the agenda went out last week, it was posted as of last week, as of last Wednesday,
And the
maybe
packet,
Thursday. I'm not sure what happened, but the packet is copyright protected and should not have been put on the website to begin with. I'm
right,
not sure how that got there,
yeah,
it's there now, I can't do much about it,
so,
but the plans in there are copyright protected, so I should not, I can be held liable for putting those plans out there, they should not have been distributed.
all of the information
public record
that's
check,
in the
yes.
packet is worthy for discussion though.
Yes, ma'am, I
So
understand.
I think that's why I'm here to present, because what I looked at was information that I'd like to gather more information about, that's within the packet.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
there were letters,
Yes,
certainly the information, having been presented May 23, 2022 to the township, now we're just getting the information. So the application is May 23, 2022.
yes, and it's been on the agenda, listed as an active item since May 2023, 2022.
So,
And as I've stated in many meetings, you could always come and look at a right to know request. We've had numerous people do that, it's been sitting at the counter waiting for people to look at the packet.
okay, thank you. Well, that's good to know. That would be helpful to have it also on the agenda in the future. So one question that I had was, because I was trying to do the count here, that the application for the request for the county review that's on page 19 referenced that there are approximately 185 acres being considered. 142 acres would be impacted. That leaves, I guess, about 40-some acres that are going to be considered open space. I'd like to know what they're going to do with that open space. So that's the first question. I have a list of questions, so.
Well,
I might pass the 2 minutes.
Well, we are going to try to stick to, maybe 3. It is, and there's something else that I should have said at the beginning. This is an opportunity for people to offer public comment and opinion under the Sunshine Law. It actually is not a question and answer session, and it is not an opportunity for you to ask questions. Now, in the spirit of civility and neighborliness, if a person has a couple questions like, hey, how many acres is it? That's okay. But a person with a laundry list of questions can't take over the podium, and we'll be sticking with the 3 minutes. So I would say,
Certainly, and I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to ask a lot of questions to try and get answers to something that is meaningful to me as a community member and a taxpayer in the community. So what I'm also concerned about is which really gets to me, is the number of approximately 1,205 units, 2 persons per unit, or at least the reference of dwelling units. So that's approximately about 2,400 persons That included 154 single-family units, which assumes at least 2 persons per unit. So we'll kind of run numbers here, and again, I'm just trying to figure this out, that approximately there's about possibly 2,500 new members, new residents coming into an area, which is about 10% of our township's population. So that's 10% increase to the population. My question is what are we gonna do about taxes when it comes time to be able to support the infrastructure in this community?
Taxes are, of course, an issue for the supervisors, so that's not for this board.
Certainly, you know, emergency services, police response, senior living does require some specific specialized services. And that specialized service in our community, I think we have maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 senior living centers in this community that have probably no more than 140 beds. We're talking about 2,500 potential, an increase of senior living, 2,500. I'm a senior, I'm gonna be there. I just wanna know what we're gonna do to support that population.
This is just not the right forum for the taxation question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think
It's a planning commission question. What are we gonna do to plan to support that population?
That's not the kind of question that the planning commission would answer tonight.
Right.
The planning commission will try to answer basic questions through the consultants about the nuts and bolts of the plan, and please keep in mind also, tentative sketch plans are the first of the 3 steps because the plan doesn't have to be engineered yet. That's why it's called tentative, and that's why they use the word sketch. It gives people a very general idea of where the project is headed. If I may say so, it's really a preliminary plan that's the most important step of the 3, and it's the first time that the plans are fully engineered and will include a lot more detail. Now, on the numbers that you are suggesting as the population increase, I would leave it to the applicant whether they agree or want to comment on whether they think the numbers are right. But in terms of the conclusions that follow from that, what percentage it is of the total population, that's just math. That's not anything the planning commission has to be asked or commented about unless you're asking it rhetorically. So in terms of your actual numbers, in terms of the
It's an infrastructure question that I would ask of, obviously, the applicant, of how they're gonna improve the infrastructure in the community, given that it's potentially 2,500 seniors.
So that's also another issue that comes up a lot with land development plans. An applicant is not required to make improvements to the community. They cannot be forced to make off-site improvements. They can only make on-site improvements and immediately contiguous improvements. Otherwise, it's through this law that we have called Act 209 for traffic intersection improvements that they have to pay a fee towards, but you can't make them do off-site improvements. It's a common question, and we probably give that answer, a couple times every month. The reason the number of the population is big is because it's a huge piece of ground. So they're not developing it in a way that's, again, they're not asking for relief from the zoning ordinance. Actually, I believe that the current application is only half the yield that they're actually allowed under the ordinance. Is that not right?
70%.
70%? So they're actually allowed a great many more people, whatever, for their own reasons they did not put in for the full number. But the numbers are what the numbers are.
So I am gonna just ask again on page 27 of Grace Planning Associates document, section number 14, section 182, -83. Given the number of units proposed, it is highly recommended that the board of supervisors request a community impact statement and market analysis for this proposed land development to better understand the impact and viability of the project.
And we will have both of them as
Yeah.
a conditional use here.
Those are required by ordinance.
Another question that I
And
have.
man, you're really way over the 3 minutes and you're still out with the questions.
Yeah,
No disrespect intended, but there's a lot of people
I'm
here.
sure, well, I appreciate it, because I'm a resident, that I have to dodge vehicles every single day to get to my employment.
Maybe we could just get to one more of your questions before we give someone else a
Question
turn.
on the Black Rock Road entrances. The plan itself references maybe one entrance, 2 entrances, I think I see on my map. And is that a state highway PennDOT issue. So any additional entrances besides the 4 that currently exist for Parkhouse nursing facility, there's 2 additional, and it looks like there's 1 up around, I'm not quite sure what that is, but.
State highway occupancy
State
permits
highway.
are totally within the purview of PennDOT.
Okay.
Yes, it's a separate, whole separate process.
So therefore, the bridge that is, underlying that overrides the creek there, that's a PennDOT issue? So would we be petitioning PennDOT for some clarification, or would we come to the township for clarification about what happens, probably, 3 hours a day during that area of traffic?
Anthony, do I recall correctly that we were already looking at that bridge even before this application was in?
You mean us as the township of PennDOT?
As the township and through PennDOT?
Yes, we had some dialogue, I guess, when we were pursuing the grant for the roundabout project at the intersection. We had some dialogue with the department about the bridge there. I believe it might now be on their tip program to address. When, we have no idea, but it's part of our, it's incorporated in our preliminary engineering for the roundabout.
Okay, well, again, senior living, I'm not opposed to. 2,200 seniors trying to cross over that little bridge at a time of traffic might be a safety issue for our community.
Understood.
I think I just would ask that the planning commission take consideration of what Mr. Bracy's recommendation was of an impact study for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that everybody understands, this is not directed to you, but you reminded me of one other comment I was going to make. The planning commission's job and the supervisor's job with the land development plan is to look at what we call the SALDO, the subdivision and land development ordinance, which has many, many requirements for how you have to build buildings, what impervious you have, what setbacks you have, how much open space there has to be. And it's a process of dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that the plan complies with every detail of the SALDO. What it is not is an exercise of discretion on whether anybody up here likes the plan, doesn't like the plan, whether the supervisors like the plan or do not like the plan. When Mr. Mullen called it a by right plan, that means under the zoning ordinance, they don't need anything from the township in the way it changes to the zoning ordinance. They have a right to the approval if they do dot all their I's and cross all their T's, which is what the process is about. Whether it's a little project or a big project, that doesn't change. Okay? All right, thank you.
And one final question, if I could ask the applicants, was there a consideration of why it changed from the 600 units in 2020 to now 1,203 or 1,205 actually?
Spite.
Numbers concept.
Yeah, it was totally different concept originally.
Spite and greed.
We were trying to replicate Williamsburg, it was shopping, and we were trying to do a horse farm, we were trying to do all sorts of things that we thought would make sense. But the problem was that in order to facilitate those uses, we could not have the age restriction of 62. When that got shot down or not, didn't go anywhere, then we came back and said, well, we're gonna have to be age 62 and up. So what should we do? And this is what we came up with.
And 1,203 was considered
Carrot and stick.
for this community to the demand is 1,203.
It's basically what planned out through our planning consultants when we wanted to have singles, townhouses, sale apartment units and apartments. We could go like all apartments, but we chose not to do that.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Let's please move on. And just for your frustration levels, just try to put your questions in the form of not looking for an answer, but just to give us some thoughts as we progress through this process. We'll take those questions, not to give you answers, but maybe just to understand what the thought of the community is. So don't necessarily come up here looking for answers at this point. We'll be here for a lot longer, and that's okay, but the applicant is not required to answer questions either at this point. If Ed wants to do that, that's fine, so try to make it so we understand the feel of the community instead of looking for an answer at this particular meeting. There's going to be other meetings. So, thank you. Jeff?
Ms. Mossy?
Institutional,
So
exactly.
can you explain to me and explain to the audience why that meets the criteria?
It
Because I
doesn't.
would think there's a nursing component or care component in this one.
If the, yeah, when we first got the application, we were, of course, in due diligence, we were looking at every possible opportunity to see whether the plan was subject to challenge or rejection or even modification just to gain leverage if we could do that. And I thought that was actually an area of inquiry. And I raised that concern with Mr. Mullen, and timing being everything, there was a case decided out of Worcester Township last year on this very issue, which was decided not for this applicant, but was decided in a way that's favorable to this applicant on that point. And in Worcester, Mr. Mullen might recall the details better, but I think what happened was, all they had was a letter that said, if you live in a home, in a house here in this community, but you have a medical need, you'll have first priority to go into our medical building over there. And you know, the township's argument was, you're just calling it senior with a medical overlay to put more units in of single-family homes. And I thought that was going to be a basis to challenge it, but there's a written court decision that went up to Commonwealth Court, and that was affirming Judge Silo in Norristown. And it kind of put that to bed.
That's interesting, because when I was on board, this was something that we actually changed the zoning to prevent.
Mm-hmm.
The Ridgewood law, which I don't remember that, but I'll leave that at that. So, my question on this, and it's really just a general question, it's some people mull over here, is who's gonna run this facility? Is there gonna be employees here, and who's gonna run it? Because, Dr. Rifkin, who was the original purchaser of the Parkhouse facility, sold that facility in 2017 and didn't want to be in the business anymore. He sold off all of his nursing homes, as I recall. So now all of a sudden he wants to get back into it because because we slapped him down with his residential proposal. So my concern is that this proposal coming in here now, which is quite frankly horrifying to me, is a bait and switch, because now we're gonna come back to the board and say, you know, to get to that little farm community that was so sweet and everything else, it'll just change the zone. So that's kind of where I'm thinking with this, but I would also like to recommend to the planning commission that not only do we do the community impact study, but we also do a feasibility study, whether something like this has a market, because there are 88 nursing homes in Montgomery County.
So let me just interrupt you a second. We did do that study, and it will be at the supervisor's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Because there's 88 nursing homes in Montgomery County already, which the next highest number, I think, is in Philadelphia, 58. We are like, and then Bucks County, 52. So I think we have more than our share of nursing facilities. We have 3 right here in the township.
Just on the bait and switch point that you raised, I would point out that most or all of the supervisors, not including Tom because he wasn't on yet, but I believe they all made statements that they would not change the ordinance that was being changed to accommodate that first plan. And I believe that ship has sailed. I've had numerous conversations with the applicant, and I'll always continue to look for ways to try to make this plan better, even after preliminary approval. But to the best of my knowledge, it's not a case where they're trying to say, now that we've scared you with this, now will you consider going back to the other?
That's exactly what it is.
I can tell you, I asked that question, and all the indications are that they've moved on. Whether the plan will ever be, you know, made to look a little more palatable at preliminary when it's engineered, who knows?
You're such a liar, dude.
But the supervisor's already committed to not changing the ordinance, which would be, that would have to happen to go back to that other plan. And based on the supervisor's comments, I do not believe that's going to happen.
Okay, that's reassuring. The only other thing that I would say is that for once I agree with the county planning commission letter about the EMS. The part of this, these are whatever we're calling this, it's not a nursing facility. So whatever we're calling this, this is gonna be a community of elderly people, 1,200 to 2,400 elderly people taking up our EMS services. They should have their own dedicated EMS service. I'm sorry, we just went through a tax increase to pay for 24/7 EMS and fire in this township, and I don't think it's fair to increase our township by 10% simply to accommodate this development plan, which, by the way, our comprehensive plan never considered this land to be developed at all. So we went from 0 to 1,200. So the planning aspect of this, the community impact aspect of this is huge. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Lisa. Currently, Jeff has stepped out, so I'll just take the next person who wants to come up and identify themselves.
Jeff handed me a list.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Victoria Schwartz.
I actually wanted to discuss some of the other things, and then also my brother James lost it for
Okay, well, yeah, we're not, I don't think that's on the agenda for tonight. That's when, public non-agenda.
Yeah, it's on there.
Those are active, those are active applications. Yeah, future. The agenda stops where it says adjournment. Everything after that is things that are on our planning, but not on the planning commission tonight. So again, who's next?
Looks like, is it James Worland? Wow. Sorry, I can't read it. 28 Sacramento Street, Montgomery.
Okay, go to the next one.
Michael Paget.
It's a quick clarification from the applicant. You mentioned the feasibility report will be made available for the board of supervisors when you're not prepared to talk about it this evening.
Like to see that one of four amendments to be moved. I'm curious about these impact statements, because reference all those copyrighted as well.
Is what copywritten?
For all the impact studies.
No. The plans that we receive are sometimes copyrighted, and it poses a difficulty for us, because technically under the copyright law, we're then stuck. We can let people come see it, but we can't send it out or let people take copies of it away. But the other documents are not that.
So they are going to be public, so we have to come try to.
Well, you have to submit, I believe that the township generally requires right-to-know requests for all documents, just so they can keep track of who all they've given things to.
And we can do that orally. You can come to the window and just ask and say, I'd like to see this document. I'm not sure what Cheryl would do, you're having to fill out the form right there, just explaining it. And if we can pull it for you right away, we look at it, we grab it for you. I'm talking generally, but we'll pull it for you as fast as best we can. We do have a certain time frame if we can't get the documents right there due to staffing or whatever else. But this application has been sitting out there for a while, because we knew this was right to this day.
Let's say you reference that the single lane bridge on 132 might be involved with the grant for the cul-de-sac roundabout. They're trying to travel this Second Avenue.
Yeah, so due to the proximity of we're still in preliminary engineering, so it's final yet, so we're still, in the design process, but it's assumed as part of our roundabout, wherever it ends up, however it looks geometrically, that the bridge is placed as part of that project.
In the event that bridge is compromised under construction, in theory, would be rerouted to Baker Road or Old State Road. There's no infrastructure there, stormwater management is already flooded. There's going to be quite the impact here on load. Where will the reroute occur?
We haven't gotten into those. Clearly I understand the concern. Part of the process, I guess, with the bridge would involve dialogue with the departments. Depending on what's the bridge, we can't make a call, I guess, obviously on the bridge, but those concerns would be vetted through our engineering and, through the process with the department, those sorts of discussions would ensue, and we would try to figure that out if there's an issue that is raised.
grave sites. Has there been any plan or zoning impervious checks?
Regarding the grave sites, they will all be treated, with respect and protected. We will identify where they are. We understand from the former county planning commission, remember, I don't know if he's still there or not, Mike Stokes, he has some idea of where they are, and we certainly will not disturb the graves.
So then, in response to that, in the event that there is a foundation being done, you penetrate a mass burial site, what kind of remediation, modifications, lots of dwelling units?
Those studies will be done before the foundation.
Will it be made public or is this confidential?
It should all be part of the plan we're submitting to the township, so anybody can see.
You made reference to $1 million impact in infrastructure. I'm in real estate myself, $1 million for infrastructure modifications regarding this property.
Nothing.
Probably 1/100th of the impact.
It's nothing.
When it comes to stormwater management, that is grossly lacking in Old State Road, Second Avenue, intersection of Drive List, Black Rock, 113. What kind of additional impacts will you guys be sustaining yourselves?
The township ordinance requires, and we will comply with the ordinance, that we take the 50-year storm before development and reduce it to a 2-year storm. So there will be a vast improvement in the entire area when we develop this.
The $1 million reference, I think, was to the 209. That had nothing to do with stormwater.
Well, yeah, but I think that's another question.
That's only for traffic.
Right. Old State Road, there's extensive traffic on the impact here. I've not seen the traffic impact study by PennDOT. I'm assuming it's not going to be available public as well, so you have to file a regular requirement.
No, so yeah, it's
Or the one that's under, one that's not occurred yet?
no.
So I'm assuming one will be occurring before any further advancements and approvals.
Or preliminary approval.
I live right on the left side, butts right up to my backyard. I've seen extensive bald eagles, bog turtles. Bald eagles are no longer on the endangered species list. Decades of preservation and respect. Those floodplain areas, or wetlands, heavily saturated with bog turtles, and they are on the endangered species list. I'm hoping that the proper impacts and reviews are within the appropriate distances, because again, they are on the endangered species list and federal laws protect them. So that's
We're fully aware of bond turtle requirements and will do the necessary studies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As a quick aside, I talked out with Mr. New, and his questions were about Amelia Street, completely different application.
Well, when you were out this lady here, it
Okay.
was on your list, he also had the same, a
Okay.
question about Amelia Street also.
Okay, I'll poke my head out again right after, Mr. Felton comes up and as he speaks. He's next on the list, so I'll duck out to make sure they don't have any more questions.
Yeah, this young lady right here in front. Okay. Mr. Felton, you
Mr.
said?
Felton?
Hi.
Hey, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'll try to keep it to comments and not questions. I guess the first thing that, when I look at this plan, I see a single family townhouse, residential development. I mean, I don't see
Institution.
a residential care facility for senior citizens. I mean, the type of structure or building that would house that type of facility, I don't see it being a single family. So my biggest concern with this plan is the impervious surfaces that are being proposed on this plan. Even if they're considering some sort of residential facility to house seniors, assisted living, to me this would be independent living. Not that could be assisted living unless there's a nurse living in each home. But some sort of design many beds that you're looking to get, but not this suburban sprawl type of development. Following up on what Mr. Jack had brought up about the graves that might be on the site, would the township require an archaeology study of this land? Because I think it's not just these graves that might be here, but these lands were inhabited by not the Indians, way before the Europeans got here. And around not just this site, but a lot of the surrounding sites, there have been artifacts found that indicate that this was a settlement, not just a hunting land or something like that. So I would suggest that an archaeology study would be an important thing to do. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to do some sort of development here that could implement, the latest technology when it comes to sustainable building, sustainable design, reduce the impervious surface. On-surface parking lots have got to be the worst thing we can do to this land. Let's put all the parking inside the footprint of the building. If it's for seniors, do they even need automobiles? Maybe there's a shared car share program, and there's, electric vehicles inside the footprint of the building for the seniors to use when they do want to go out, and then some sort of service, to take them to Providence Town Center or in the Phoenixville or wherever they want to go. Let's, from a traffic standpoint, let's do what we can do with this development to minimize and limit that. So I don't know, what the planning commission is going to do moving forward. I would hope to see there might be some sort of citizens committee that might get involved. I don't know if that's going to be, but certainly, I think there's some ideas that might be helpful that we could make this into a light development. Not Thank you.
Next on the list, David Tennant.
Go on up, Dave. No, that's
not me.
It's just, the moderation.
Please make sure you talk in the mic. It's very, very quiet.
I thought this was more just, I'll be a little bit brief for them, keep it before me, passion's still there. But you wanted to hear from the community through 309 District Drive, we come out of that bottleneck that's gonna be affected, right, every day. Joined my family here for 25 years, seen a ton of development, seen this community grow. By and large, all that development is good positive. But I gotta tell you, I'm really concerned about what this represents. I see, we're bursting at the seams right now, just to get out of our neighborhood, just all the streets around us are more and more difficult to navigate. And that's before all those apartments up the way are filled up. And I see just how crazy that is at what that roundabout is up there. And to think about having to come out of my neighborhood into that same kind of environment, I think that is just horrible. And I don't want that. And to have another 2,000 or more cars be part of that whole process is just going to make things worse. And for me to have that disruption over the next however long this development is going to make our life worse. This is not in the best interest of the community. You referenced, I think, earlier, Mr. President, all the signs that are out there. The community has been very clear in terms of what we think about what should be done here. Every person's going to benefit is an opportunistic investor. So I would really just do whatever we can to not allow this to go forward. That's my request from you, and I guess we'll have the same conversations at the supervisor level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy Sheets.
Well said.
not very clear to me. I'm wondering if there's been any consideration to the historic one-room schoolhouse that's located on Old State Road, just up the road from there. I have a picture of it, a poor picture of it, but my father had this.
On the property, it is? Is it on the property?
Yes, it is.
I don't know.
I can't speak to what their plans are, but they do show the structure on the building, on the plans.
I can't tell you.
And I appreciate that, I can show it to you afterward, the filling machines.
Build all around it.
Are they preserving it?
I'm not sure what, all I know is that it's on the plans, I think that's a question for Mr. Mullin.
Hook a bunch of balloons to it and let it take off.
With this building to, Christian Sanderson. You're probably not familiar with him, I'm not really too familiar with it either, but he's, an historian, he's a teacher, poet, musician, a collector. There's a museum over in Chad's Ford, over in that area, they're very much aware of him. His first teaching job was in this building in the 1920s.
We will commit to do our best to keep the building, and in worst case, move it intact somewhere else in the city.
You feel better? Oh, yeah.
It would be nice if we could use this as a historical building for artifacts of the township. You know, if they could see fit to either sell or donate an acre of property along with this building. You know,
Yeah, well, we can talk to them.
Township's use.
We can talk to them about that before, you know, as the steps proceed.
You have?
No, I said we can, though.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
There's a lot you can do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pat, I think it's canning, meaning?
Get back to 1558 Road. My comment is, I'm just a little shocked with the lack of information we got tonight from the applicant. And I'd like to second Lisa's idea that I think we need an independent study done by the township instead of being having to accept what they give us. That's all.
Thank you.
You want to speak? You want to speak? Okay. And you okay? You ready? Yep. Keep in mind.
Hi, Mark Connolly here. I have a point of view of this property in a larger scale of things. I was lucky enough to be the first Heritage Corridor manager that looked at the river and the natural resources, recreational opportunities, and I served to move that along the river in that position. I've also been, for 33 years, a board member of the Phoenix Irontown Trail Association, which is now known as the Phoenixville. And we have pretty much finished the Greenway in Phoenixville through good planning and an understanding of how these waterways are incredible assets in the community, and that the land surrounding them and the viewsheds are so important. So I've been involved with the Canal Association, so I have a very deep appreciation and understanding of these open spaces. And as a owner of property in the township, I know that we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. So when you're doing pretty good, you need to start thinking about the future, because there's more people in the future than there are today, or have ever been. There are going to be more people that your decision affects than in this room that are alive in this township in the future, on matters such as this. This is an important thing that our culture is missing right now, And we have an opportunity because we are in a very good position financially. And we're smart people. And we see the balance of things roughly. And I think this is the perfect situation where we're looking at balance in the township. We're saying, what's enough? Where do we need to allow things to happen? And where do we need to take action? And I think this property as open space and its adjoining properties is such an obvious call that I can't imagine that anybody supports it except the owners and other entities associated with construction. I serve actually on the Chester County Energy and Advisory Board. I am a resident of Charlestown, although I own property at 209 Montgomery County, and I lived there in the past. I've been part of the climate action plan. And I think that one of the things that we need to do with every discussion from this point forward is consider the carbon emissions associated with everything that we do. It's getting damn hot out there. This was the coolest summer we will ever have. We need to take action on every one of our decisions to understand the impact. 50% of the energy of any building that is built into it during construction. This is a massive project. That's a big carbon footprint that you're looking at right there. And I'm hoping that the township is starting to shift or incorporate the carbon footprint into every conversation. Because this is what smart people do when they see what's happening, decide to make a difference. I had one reaction to the plan.
We're going to our list, so now it's whoever would like to speak. I think that John jumped in front of you, but you can happily go after. Your name and address, sir.
John Wessler, 180 Country Ridge Drive. What should I say? Wessler, W-E-S-L-E-R. Just two questions, just so I understand and maybe not comprehend it correctly, but you can go back possibly to the slide that talks about the ordinance restrictions. If I could just read that one more time so you can see that, or at least take a screenshot of that, that means a lot.
Jeff's in the process.
So, not that one, the next one, the one with the highlight. So, licensed nursing, convalescent home, residential care facility for senior citizens. Just trying to see where this falls in, where how this kind of slides in there without being restricted. Is it under the word residential care facility for senior citizens? Is that how that gets in with, is that how the loophole is, without being approved?
Well, it's not a,
Yeah, it's not a loophole, but that.
I think that's what they're intending is that use.
Well, the definition of residential.
It's not the
care
plain
facility
language of the statute.
Is a
I mean-
facility consisting of individual residential living units exclusive of persons who are 62 years of age or older, and for married couples with one spouse or both spouses age 62 or older.
That's some word salad right there.
That will provide personal care and healthcare services, including nursing beds and nursing care for living units.
Yeah.
We don't propose any nursing, we do propose the assisted living.
He's reading the definition earlier in that same ordinance. In the zoning ordinance, the first thing it has is defining everything.
Okay.
So if you go online and look at the zoning ordinance,
Okay.
that residential care facility term, all the way at the start of the ordinance under definitions, that's what he's reading, and those are the, right, so the criteria are in a couple different places.
Okay, so I was trying to make that a little bit more clear there, to me, that this doesn't have that component of resident care, because they're not providing care, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed further.
I'm pretty comfortable that they satisfied, especially after the Worcester decision, but I do understand what you're saying, because
You're comfortable, huh?
And the second question I had, I heard some rumblings that there was potential consideration or interest from the state or some level for somebody to possibly purchase this back. Is that something that is accurate or is that false?
people have conversations, everybody looks into every possibility. I don't know any of the details, I was not a party to the conversations. I believe staff or some combination with the supervisors may have looked into it. It probably is not realistically feasible in light of the value of the land. we would never be able to. The value of the land is, I don't know what it is, but it's somewhere, I think, between $50 and $100,000. And you're never going to be able to get a grant. You're going to acquire that way. And even if you got a grant for that much money.
He didn't spend that much for it, did he?
Spend it all in one place in the township regarding one project, when there's people on the other side of the township who have their own local concerns too. So I don't think there's any real traction to any conversation along those lines.
I just think that, yeah, I appreciate that, I just think that number 3 needs to be vetted again a little bit better, whether it needs to go with Montgomery County to the ultimate decision maker, or if it goes to the state. I think that, this isn't Washington County, so.
No, well, okay, understood, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Jeff, hold on, we got the ladies there.
Please go, so we're gonna let,
Yeah.
Tricia Soul, 1513 Acre Road. Could you please go back to the map? The more or less triangle north of Old State Road, I don't see any building on that. Is that part of the open space?
Yes, at the top.
And what percentage of the open space is that rectangle?
No idea.
All of it.
Sorry, I don't know.
Couldn't that open space be incorporated into? No, you're saying you preserve.
The open space is whatever they can't build on because it's too swampy.
Preserving open space within the community.
So what you're saying is you'd rather see buildings on that?
No, I'd rather see that open space. You have to build something, incorporate it into where you are building.
There is a requirement in the ordinance that avoids open space being one circle here and one square there, and ultimately in the middle.
That's exactly it. That's a triangle, so it's
I
okay.
believe that provision in the ordinance doesn't capture every square foot of the open space, but it captures a lot of it. And it's in your comment letter too, I think.
yeah, keeping in mind that there's some clarification needed on some of
Dude's
the
got some
open
brass
space
ones, so I don't
and how it's
think.
allocated and how it meets our ordinance, which is a fairly standard comment for this level, not 1,200 unit level, but this level of application submission.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
No, Mr. Splee?
My name is John McLean, live on Knoll Drive. I'm a lifelong resident of this township, so I've seen this township back when it was a rural, beautiful community, mostly farms.
You know where I live this year, right? You know, cause all to go.
Oh, I live in one of the new developments. I grew up in Montclair, there's a number of other people in here, a lot of friends in here. And what I'm worried about is the traffic problem. I mean, will this traffic that they're looking at, are they going to look at more than just Black Rock Road, Second Avenue, you know, right in the area? Are they gonna look at, what's the effect on 29 Black Rock Road? What's the effect on down 29? What's the effect on 113 going down to Rick Place? Is it going to actually take a look at the traffic through the whole township? Because I've seen this, where you can get anywhere in the township quickly. Now, it's nice. You need to say what it is, it's progress. It's not bad. But to put this many housing units in and bring in at least 1,200 new cars, if not probably closer to 2,000, and put that traffic on all the roads of the township, not just these, is one of my concerns. You know, will they take a look at all that? $1 million isn't going to fix that problem throughout this township. When you're looking at adding traffic lights or circles or something somewhere in other locations to take up all that different traffic that's going through the whole township, not just right near this. That's the other thing. The other thing that I was thinking about is you're putting all these out and you're saying everyone rely on the new services we have just down the street for ambulance and fire. Well, that seems like a real burden for what we have in this township, because how many more ambulances are we going to have to put in? If you're bringing in senior citizens who normally would use that service more frequently than the rest of the township, are we going to have something covered, or should they have their own services available to them? I mean, it's supposed to be a facility. The facility should have those services. I'm not sure why they're not required to have it. You know, they're saying, oh, we'll provide it. Well, how about they provide the full service to that and stop relying on the township for all these things? And the last thing I have, and it's just a question, for you, Joe. Is it possible they can actually release those documents, they're copyrighted, for you to put them on the website so that we all can see it? It can be done, it's just a matter of a letter.
That I did ask once before, and I got a no.
What are they hiding?
The answer has changed.
They're afraid we're gonna build our own development with their plans or something.
Yes, that was part of the, conditional use hearing with.
It's cowardly.
And at that point, will we be able to see the documents?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have them.
Absolutely.
The copyright doesn't prevent people from seeing the plans that are there.
Cowardly, come on, dude.
It just means you can't take Sure, and we did try.
Fair use. It's a public document.
Well, that's their decision. They can choose to answer that. I really don't know.
No, the only thing we're talking about is the plan. Anything else you can see ahead of us.
Yeah, but we can come down here again.
The plan is copyrighted.
The plan.
I'm sorry, Mr. Suplee.
What are you hiding?
Continue, which is perfectly fine. Just have the money. As little money as you can get. Make it your carry.
Right. Right. That's what I'm talking about, that document. Why can't that document be published, get a waiver to publish that
We
document?
understand the question, we just are not in control of the answer.
Yeah, well, these gentlemen aren't.
Anything that we have submitted to date to the township is available on the township record.
Well, just so you guys know, I don't know if with copyright, if we don't post it, if it's copyrighted, we did apply for in error this one time, but in general, we need your yes to do that.
You're just talking about the plan. We don't have any problem with anybody looking at the plan.
Looking at it.
Everything else is available.
Post it.
So, but can we put the plan back on the internet?
They put it in the internet, so I'm asking. Did they publish it on the internet, so that having this available here? Yes.
Well, it is available.
Answer the question.
We took it.
Answer the question.
No, we took it. If that was a mistake that was corrected, they take it back down.
It's like Trump with his taxes.
You go onto the township website, you go under planning commission, you go under agenda, and beside agenda it says materials. You open that up, and there's like 8 pages, and it's everything that we submitted.
No, I'll be available. Okay. Yeah, I got one question earlier that was taken down.
No, only the plan.
Only the plan. And this is the plan here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It is available, it's right there.
On the website. That's the question to the developer.
I understand.
Well, the answer is that the engineer that's here is not authorized to make that determination. It's a company policy. You can certainly ask, and we will get back to you, and if it's available, then we can put it.
What's a no?
James Hoffman, 1199 Second Avenue.
That's cowardly.
One highlighted page, you can bring that back up, please.
Yes.
I'm sorry, which page?
The highlighted area on that one page, the zone.
Yep.
Prior was talking about. In that highlighted definition, it's talking to the facility. We have regarding the facility. I'm assuming all those particular units that will be single family or condos or townhomes would be individually deeded. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Not some of them.
That's not an institution,
Like
then.
the houses, I'm not talking about the apartment
Yes,
complexes,
yep.
but the condos, so what would be normally individual?
So how's that an institution?
You live in an individually home, I assume.
Yeah.
Is your house considered a facility?
Some people may there will be a homeowners association, will be a planned unit community under a set of rules and regulations that will make the entire project a facility. And they're all gonna be for seniors 62 and up.
That's not the same as institutional. It's not institutional either.
That's how they define it. They fucked up when they read it.
Depends who makes the interpretation. That one court ruling can be challenged. He's relying on that one court ruling. That's not. Maybe, maybe not.
First of all, I'd just like to say, this is, if you could go back to the plan, it's rather heartbreaking, for a family who just moved to this community about a year and a half ago. We specifically came out from where we were living in search of what we have, which is around this beautiful land and this open space. So it's really heartbreaking to see this. I would like to know if anybody's thought about the impact of the kids riding the school buses. Our high school kids have to stand outside in pitch black darkness right now to get to school on time. Has anyone thought about the impact of the bus schedule and what's going to happen to that schedule in order to make sure the kids can get to school on time? Which basically what we're saying is the kids are going to have to go out even earlier.
So one of the few children.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pam Hoffman. I reside at 1515 Jaeger Road, and my husband was up here a little earlier, and I'm looking at this map, and you've invited us to make comments today. And the comment that I want to make to you all here, as well as to the applicant, as well as to our community, which is where the rubber is going to meet the road with this development. I understand that this applicant owns this land. I understand that they're probably going to build something on this land, and there's really little that we can do for that specific fact that they own it and they're going to build something on it. What I see when I look at this is they took the 180 acres that they could, they squeezed as much residential, as much concrete, as much parking lot, as much building as they could into this piece of property.
That's right.
And they have given the bare bones minimum of beauty and consideration to our community, to the families, to the homes that are on the perimeter and the periphery of this land.
It's a big F you to
And
everybody.
I just am disgusted with the entire process here, and I think that we all here are the little people, and we have to figure out a way to get them to change this building and this development and make it something that is going to benefit us, not them. There is the
Here, here. Here, here. That's right.
Ray? I don't want to butcher your last name.
Thank you, members of the planning. This project comes before you as the planning commission. Well, a lot of the discussion sounds like there's no discretionary approvals. I think the planning commission still has a role to make sure that this project gets the environment, serves the community, meets all the requirements. So, institutional. One of the reasons this was institutional zoning was that it wasn't going to be residential. It wasn't going to be residential sprawl. Had an institutional use, and I think it was anticipated that other institutions, churches, or schools,
Right. They're trying to do an end run around it.
I don't really see this project as a nursing home facility. I see it as individual residences, primarily in the northern part. I'm just curious to me, because when we look at the conditional uses, the permanent uses, it's assisted living, it's nursing care, there's some employee work-related housing. This all looks like independent living. This does not look like assisted, does not look like nursing.
Exactly.
So I would ask
planning commission to ensure the project has some safeguards, that it is in fact assisted living. It is in fact nursing care, not simply a town project. The kind of intense residential development we're seeing here, you're already building and have already permitted up by the Providence Town Center. You have commercial project, even residential. You have this kind of intense residential use. Part of this being institutional was to prevent more suburban sprawl to the south. We've got several projects that are 80 and 90 unit projects. They're already all built all around it. To build more is just simply not what the institutions are all about. So I would ask the planning commission to really think that one through and make sure that the institutional use and the needs for institutional use is in fact met by whatever its development is supposed to.
Thank you for those comments. Please be assured that, we're residents of the township also, and we understand, we're gonna do our job. We're gonna do our job. So please trust us in that. Right?
Ooh, trust and verify. Trust us, we're from the government.
I'm Ray Rocchio, I live at 374 Vista Drive, Phoenixville, yeah. And I can just tell you, I've been here for over 30 years now. I grew up in Rhode Island, and I gotta tell you, I really appreciate all that the planning commissions previous to you guys and our board of supervisors have done. I think this is an excellent development. I can't tell you how happy I am that I live here, that you all live here with us. So I wanted to just say thank you, and I appreciate you for that. It sounds like this fight for us probably was lost 10 years ago when the county sold the land, right? Sorry for myself for not getting more involved in it, didn't know. But the reality is we're here today, so let's deal with it, right? What can we do about it? They say all politics is local, and I've served on the school board not many years ago. And I guess all I would tell you in that regard is, having served on the school board, it's tough for the people in the community to understand the nuances that get involved with this. So I'm not going to pretend to tell you and sit and pick on what can be done or not done with this development, because as somebody just did, they're going to build something on it. Let's try to make it as meaningful as possible for us to live with. It's clearly going to be a disaster for us. So I just ask that we make it as painful as possible for them to do this.
Hey. Hey. Amen.
I think the community is here to support whatever you want or need. So please, what I ask of you is help us to help you. Do whatever we can, with respect to them, to slow this thing down. I don't care if it crawls, right? Slowness in building in townships is key. I'm not a big environmentalist. I will take that to the T to slow this thing from happening. So anything we can do
Time is money.
to help slow that process, because as you slow process, things change. This wasn't the plan I saw 2 years ago. That plan was looking a lot better than this one was, right? So I don't know what the next plan's gonna look like, but I would just ask that we in the community are here. We're asking for your help, for our elected officials. Please help us to help you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm on that for the 100 Bennington Road, and my property backs up where the triangle is to the lower left side of the pool building. So my perspective is really fiscal more than anything else. It's going to be clear that once this project, if it is approved, begins, people, the 35 residents in my development, many will leave. The residents in Vista will also leave because we're not going to be able to get out. And with so many people placing their homes on the market at the same time, it's going to take property values. And that's going to have a long-term impact on this township. My wife and I moved here from Philadelphia because we wanted to live in the suburbs. And this township is probably the best that we could have chosen to live in, and we love coming here every day. I've been a police officer in Philadelphia for 32 years. I drive an hour back and forth every day, and I love every minute of it coming here. We can't stay here for this. I already know traffic creates frustration, frustration, creates conflicts, and you're gonna need more police up here. In addition to that, as the property values start to fall, the quality of your residence will begin to change. And you're going to begin to start seeing more crime and other issues because the monies in the township are going to come down. I understand the property has to be developed in some way, shape, or form. If I own it, I want to do something with it as well. But to build that on that property changes the character of this township. And it's going to change the people who will want to live here. So please make a decision, not just for us today, but looking 10, 20, 30 years down the road. It's going to be difficult enough for people retiring. You look at interest rates going up, which is already causing property values to fall. To do that here in this community is really going to hurt us. And not only hurt us, but the people who are retiring, are paying retirement in a couple of years. It's going to cost me my wife something to lose $100,000 or $150,000 of equity out of our home because of the project. I may not be concerned about that, but I thank you for the opportunity to voice our concerns as a resident here.
Thank you. Jeff?
We have nobody else on the list.
Is Eddie Bells? Okay, we have another gentleman.
You're out here, man.
1320 Black Rock Road, across from the new firehouse. Okay, you're all familiar with Sharon Dell down in Providence? Okay, this land gets kicked out, or the land before which was kicked out. How much of a chance is there for Shannondale to be built here? Because because there is a possibility, it's the same possibility that could happen here.
Well, as you said, we're only at 70% of the permitted density, so we could end up having all apartments. That's not our plan, but absolutely.
I understand that, it's a hypothetical question.
Yep,
Absolutely. Very good question, so. Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jeff, hold on a minute, I think this gentleman's next.
Mark Davis, 122 Bennington Road. We've already gone through the explanation of how this fits the ordinances, and I just want to say that is fascinating that this clearly not assisted living community somehow classifies as assisted living. Truly fascinating. There's a phrase that the kids use, following the letter of the rule with the intent of going against the spirit. It's called malicious compliance. You took away the cute little Williamsburg, said no. So let's try to inflict as much harm on the community as we can while following the rules. Fascinating. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
This how many single family homes in this development? 153. I'm sure you want to sell all those, and I'm just wondering how many families, 62 and above, are going to continue to purchase these homes. At that age, people are downsizing. They're moving to Florida, Arizona, when parts unknown. How many people are going to want a single family home? I mean, I don't want to see anything started and then fail. And I don't think, the rest of the community would want to see it fail. But I can't see who would want to buy them.
Well, our market studies show that there is an increasing need for senior housing and a corresponding decrease of available senior housing. And we are convinced and have been advised by our experts that there will be no problem marketing all of these units.
Once it's built, they'll try to get rid of the 62. So that's what they'll do once it's built.
Hi, my name is Susan Denby, and I live at 155 Bennington Road. Thank you for holding this tonight, and for using for us to help
air our concerns. Really appreciate that. One thing I really would ask you to consider is how beautiful this area truly is. One reason I moved here was because of the scenery, and when you come down 113, you see such a beautiful setting, and I hate to lose all of that, and I hope that you would consider height, that keep it to the like 2 stories, that's it. Keep it to 1 story. Actually, it's people who are older, they don't want 2 stories. And to make this into something where it starts to look like King of Prussia makes me sick too. What it looks like is a little city to me, and this area is not a city. It needs to stay open and not have 1,200 new houses here. How many houses are right here within this vicinity right now? Are there 1,200? You're gonna double it? It just is, I ask that you consider open space, agriculturally protected. Where are all those things that were in your plans? Sustainability, where is it? Please show it here. Please be sensible to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's all about the money. That's it.
So, Lisa Mossy again, just, as we're sitting here thinking about this, Jeff, I think you were out of the room when we talked about this, there's no nursing component to this, and we kind of talked about that a lot tonight. We talked about how this is kind of an age-restricted community. You were on the planning commission, you were our planner when I was on the board, and we talked about this with Bridgewood. And my concern here is that we approve this under this like loosely interpreted IN district, and all of a sudden they come to us midway through the project and say, you know what? We really can't sustain the age restriction.
Exactly.
So now we're gonna have to open it up then.
Exactly.
Then we're gonna have impact stores, just like what happened with Bridgewood. And we changed our zoning because of what happened with Bridgewood, and now we've got this. So I'm just saying, before bulldozers hit the ground, we better be 100% sure that this is gonna be a viable, sustainable community. And I don't trust anything that comes from this group as far as
Exactly.
feasibility studies, community impact studies, anything.
It's all lip service.
There is. I would just, in response to that, although there's feasibility studies referenced in the ordinance, and they're providing feasibility studies, normally when we can request a feasibility study when an applicant comes to the township and says, I need you to change the zoning ordinance, and that puts the discretion up here with the supervisors, and they say, and I've been involved with this numerous times in different places, where they say, not so fast, we'll consider changing the ordinance only if we know that the project will be feasible. If it's going to fail, we're not going to change the ordinance to facilitate failure. When they don't need an ordinance change, they can't be compelled, they're allowed to fail. I mean, what you say could happen, might happen, but that could happen with every land development project that comes in. We did have one fail, Ridgewood was a partial fail, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to accept their by right at face value. That's BS. He's too quick to accept
But what would
it.
we do with it? We couldn't use it as a basis. They have a by right plan. They have to go past the condition.
No, they don't.
Prove that they meet the criteria. But otherwise, they.
They meet the criteria by the loose interpretation of the term.
Exactly. You got to challenge that.
You know you guys speak in the mic. I mean, we're never gonna pick this up.
You can't be yelling out, let's speak up.
I was saying it generally, but then it seemed to apply the most to you. No, under that, I don't think it is that loose. I hear what everybody's saying, but under the Worcester decision, it's not that loose. It's just not. I mean,
So go past that. Go above that. Like you can't challenge that?
Yeah, exactly.
There's higher courts than Worcester, Right. He's trying to make it he's trying to make it sound inevitable without even challenging it. That's
He's working with the other
Exactly.
And then they had a senior care complex.
Oh, there's nothing we can do. Throw up your hands. You know.
Living units, and then there was 80 assisted living facilities. And the definition of the ordinance was, the residential development restricted to the elderly that provides a continuum of accommodation and care from independent
Doesn't have the
living
guts.
units to personal care and nursing homes. Independent living units are dwelling units located within a residential life care facility. So there's the word facility, and the court said that their separate living units and everything else were perfectly fine.
I don't agree.
Silo, they got a building, almost 4 years.
I actually couldn't, I was stunned when I got the decision. I thought that that was something, that there was something to work with there, and there just is not.
So challenge that in court.
Ed, could I ask you just something on that? In the Worcester decision, did they have personnel on site that provided additional care in that community?
Oh, yes, and we will too.
Where? I mean, are they contingent property? I'm just asking.
It's not a given that we have to accept that ruling on that case. It's not automatic.
So who fights it?
They should.
But they're not. We're gonna have the associations who will take care of all the student rooms, downstairs, bedrooms.
I'm not a resident. I live in Trapp.
There's gonna be full-time, 24/7 staff.
Interested party, let's say.
But it'll be, you know,
That's, so it's a stepping process is what you're,
Absolutely.
single family to assisted living to.
Absolutely.
And assisted living is where
They're asking where in the overall layout of the design would the medical component, the care.
Which building is,
Single-family units are not an institution. Single-family is not an institution. It's like
By the way, everybody's been great all night and very courteous, but let's keep it rolling with the courteousness without catcalling.
well, don't baffle us with BS.
and that's the 45-unit, 90-bed assisted living facility.
45 units for 1,200
For
people.
1,200 people.
2,400 people living in assisted living, that is considered a continuum of.
That's like one lifeboat on the Titanic.
I'm sure you'll read it and have opinions about it. And we're challenged on that basis, but my interpretation was that it met that decision
Your
applied to
interpretation.
this application.
I'd rather hear somebody else's interpretation.
I'm sorry, ma'am, your name and address? Name and address?
Ann Murray, I live at 5 Wood in Phoenixville, which is Montgomery County.
Sure.
Rivercrest. And I've lived here for 20 years.
Okay.
And when I came tonight with the planning commission, I had great concerns when I saw 1,200. I understand that there's a right to build, but I also know those roads very well, and the bridge and the river, and the man who spoke to the footprint that this will bring. Surely the township and the planning commission must have some say if it doesn't have to be 1,200 units. There are retirement communities like White Horse Village that I'm very familiar with, and it's absolutely lovely. But with all of the people there, you're gonna have all of the people who have to work there. And that bridge is tiny and they flood. It just, to me, doesn't make sense. I look at it and I think, I just don't see it. And I look at plans and I just don't. So I'm hoping that the township has a real sense of who we are and where we're going.
It has some backbone.
My grandchildren live here. And that we won't do something that changes that footprint so drastically and puts traffic on those roads. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much.
Victoria Schwartz, 248 Baxter. I've also been a resident of Montgomery, Pennsylvania. My main name is Wasco. The important thing that I actually want to bring out here is I born and raised in Montclair, and then obviously I've gotten older. I moved away, lived in Township, and I was able to see how big and developed that particular area became. Unfortunately, I had to move back home, and home is to ride horses with my best friends. We used to play on the street. But the question that I have is, being a young single woman now, how are we gonna end up, who are all these people, these houses now that they're building, the townhouse community? All these farmhouses, all these retirement homes. I'd like to know what 62-year-old is gonna be able to afford a $500,000 house, maybe even 100, or excuse me, like $1 million. If you look at some of these retirement communities, they're like $900,000. Who the hell can afford that? This is the thing that we're bringing in. I understand, listen, I understand that this has to be built. I get that, I respect it. But at the same point in time, is it about money? Or is it about making a community that generations beyond me will be able to last, drive through, live?
It's about money.
And as the gentleman, as the police officer over there was saying, you bring in a lot of things, you start to move people out, more crime. You've got more issues. So if you're going to do something like this, obviously you're going to at least respect the area, respect the community, and more importantly, respect the prices, because you keep driving up. What's happening is you're pushing the people that you guys don't want in the community. Because not everybody can afford $500,000, $1 million homes. And people like me who maybe want to raise a family here, we can't. So all I ask is that all of you guys, please, look at things, traffic, how it's going to affect school, how it's going to affect wildlife, how it's going to impact future generations. And more importantly, how much is it going to drive up prices? I moved home, and fortunately, I was able to move home so I can afford it. Now, where the heck are these 62-year-old people coming from? I'd like to know. Where are they coming from? You want them all here? That's great. But what's going to happen when they can't afford it? What's going to happen to the community when other people cannot afford those homes? It is going to have to drop down to 55 or lower. That's my whole concern in regards to that is, one, who are the people? Where are they coming from? And how much more impact do you guys want to take up? There's not much land around. There's not much land left. People want to be able to move to this community. People who go up here would like to move home because it is home. That's all I ask. Thank you guys for letting me speak. I appreciate it. But again, I just ask you, please, think about it. Whenever something's going to be built, just think about the pricing, think about the community, think about how it's going to affect everything. And let's come across to the best solution for you guys and for all of us. That's all I ask.
Thank you.
Sewer water treatment plant, sustain additional 1,200. I'm sorry, your name again, sir, just so I can make sure I know it. Michael Kajak, 104 Bennington Road. Can our sewer water treatment plant sustain an additional 1,200 individuals? People that are discharged every
Yeah, the township's flow goes to the regional, we just have 2 baselines, and I do believe there's EDUs there.
Are OTUs available?
Right, I think we confirmed that already.
There's a lot of
They certainly
belief.
do have to confirm it before they ever get approvals, and I thought, I do believe. that-
There's a lot of I believe in this presentation. Oh, I know. Yeah.
We're getting some people coming back multiple. Is there anybody who wants to speak who hasn't spoken yet? Normally we stick with, one time per customer, but we do have a little time left for people second, but.
Customer?
You wanted to get real quick.
Citizen, maybe? Resident? Customer. You can't be a customer unless you have money.
They do take our money.
And the other point, we're all talking about how this is gonna affect us. The point I'd really like to make is how it's gonna affect the environment. I mean, this is the rural part of the township, of course it always has been, since this was bought to be a farm. Final comment is, we have this density of zoning and construction going on at Providence Parkhouse. I don't think we need to.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, please say that again.
Yeah, Bob Phillips, 31 Mr. Drive. So, a couple observations. Number one, the issue on the documents, the exposure of the documents, that's a real issue.
It's an insult.
I think getting documents earlier, in some way, shape, or form, is really important to us. And I think understanding the process that has to be gone through here and the timeline for that process is helpful, and I think it would better prepare us. We might be with different comments, better
Right. Oh, exactly. It's just like Congress.
about that timeline. I'd like to see it in writing, so that we know if the owner requests the documents, if that's what we have to do, it can't be made available to us any other way. But I think help us get ready in that process. You guys want to do your job, we have to do our job, and that's a long way to do that. So I think that's important, number one. And number two is, you know, I look at this thing, I just look and say, that's dense. I don't care what the numbers say, I don't care about the little bit of open ground at the bottom, 70%. That is a really dense looking plan up there. And I think it's unfair to impose that on the community. No one wants it that I know. I talk to a lot of people in my community. Everybody opposes it. No one thinks it's a good thing. I look at the faces in the crowd, I look at your faces. I don't think anybody thinks it's a good thing except for those who are trying to push it through. And it's obviously about getting benefit from the investment that's been made here.
Rifkin's not going to live there.
Right? I don't think anybody who actually lives here thinks it's a great thing. And I think we need to stand up and do something about it. We're looking for you guys to do that. Right? So think about us. Think about the sentiment that you're doing. We're pointing out individual things as best we can, but the overall sentiment in this room, and if you went and surveyed the community around here,
99 against.
much more, in a much stronger fashion, I think, than even some of the people in this room are talking. Nobody wants this. It's too dense. I understand there's an investment here. I understand somebody's going to do something and make some money on that, but this is just too much. You can't swallow this, and it's not a good thing. I think it violates the spirit of the rules, right? You might have smart lawyers figuring out how to make it technical.
Exactly.
But I think it goes beyond that. I think the spirit of matters. I look at the words that were on that page up there and say, sure, you can shoehorn this in and make it comply with those words. But is it our job and your job to do the right thing? And is it the right thing to protect us? This goes a little bit too far. It's not a facility. Anybody can see that from looking at this, right? You might again look for some technical way to call it a facility, but it's not a facility. You know that. And looking at the plan, that's my reaction. It's my belief. I haven't studied the plan in detail, but I think it's clear enough just in looking at this, seeing and hearing it, and just ask you guys for help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wellington signed up. I'm sorry. Mr. Wellington signed up in the past.
I can tell you one thing about the timeline that you might find helpful rather than me regurgitating it all here. If you go to the website for the Department of Community and Economic Development, they have a drop-down for municipal, and then they have a library of publications on every municipal issue, and they have one called Subdivision and Land Development. And it has the whole process spelled out in plain English for regular people to understand.
I have those as well.
He's going to school us now, thanks.
You know, plenty of people, I keep the Center for Local Government handbooks ready.
James?
Hi, good evening. My name is Blake Welling. I live at 135 Bennington Road. I thank you for serving the community, and I appreciate you listening to us. I heard something early on from the applicant about preservation of open space and that type of vision. I was alarmed at hearing that because I think it was an opinion or an assertion. I don't see it in any form. This is any kind of an attempt at preserving some open space. Yeah, there's a chunk there. I want to get back. I really appreciate you listening, but I really heard some key points I hope you took notes on. Mr. Kajak raised some great points about impact on wildlife, the impact on, this area of open space that we all value. I agree with Ms. Bossy. This was horrible. I'd like to repeat the scream that I heard, but I don't think I can reasonably repeat that and do justice to it. We heard a lot of great statements. from folks. Mr. Davenport, thank you to him for raising the issue of the potential impact of how this could lead to a degradation in the quality of life of this community. So I just ask that you seriously consider some of the key points. Malicious compliance, that's another great point. And whether this really truly meets the vision we want for this community. I see rooted in history. I heard some points about, we're really considering that part of our vision when we think of that one schoolhouse and the poverty wall. Growing in promise, this is not the promise we were looking for in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's trying to combine, you guys have
He's my neighbor, I've been deferring. Okay, I just have a couple of questions.
Just pull the mic down and closer to you. Thank you.
I often have.
I understand.
So a question that I have, because I guess I cheated, I have some of the documents that were available. There were 15 recommendations from the Montgomery County Planning Commission. And I want to make sure that the audience knows that those recommendations have some specific impact to the actual delivery of this proposal. One of the things that I also wanted to ask is to the applicants, have you consulted with Montgomery County Office of Homeless Services, the Montgomery County Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Services? Because when we're talking about development of a facility, which I've developed a number of them, they typically are congregate care. We know that Parkhouse has an IMD exclusion. CMS, including Medicare, Medicaid, can pay for services there. So out of 1,205 units, are you going to be billing Medicare for services that are offered to this resident population? If it's a facility, if it's a residential care facility, it is eligible to be federally funded through Medicare, because that would include services coming to an individual's home or to a facility where Medicare can be billed. So again, an impact around, again, the question about what the definition is of a residential care facility versus what this is. This is not a residential care facility. I think you have to make sure that we're doing our homework, because there are federal laws that say you also have to allow accommodations for many different types of neurodiversity populations. And that is an important factor, because we have a homeless population in Montgomery County that is sitting there without housing tonight and tented, okay? And we're not doing anything about those individuals. But if we allow this is disgusting. It's an impact that speaks loud and clear about what Upper Providence Township will allow.
What the priorities are.
Thank you.
Glenn Oler, 197 Providence Road. Just one question. Has anybody put in the definition of restricted use relative to age-restricted use? Does that mean that, I'm 67 and I have 4 grandchildren. So my grandkids come over to my house all the time. Sometimes we get the school bus at my house. What's going to happen? Because this is an independent association that's going to be managing its property, is that correct?
Yes.
So, what's going to stop a grandparent from having their children stay with them in the residence and putting them on a school bus?
They would be violating the rules of the community. There's certainly nothing wrong with the grandchildren coming to visit. Typically in homeowners associations, there's an exclusion saying the children can live there for a period up to 30 days for if the parents on vacation or something. But if you register register your child with the school district, have a school bus pick them up, you could end up losing your house. You're not allowed to do it, and there's rules, and there was even one case in Lansdale Borough where the homeowners association was, both parties had to be 55 and up, and what happened, no, I'm sorry, had to have at least one person 55 years or older, and the husband died and the wife was 45 and they made her move.
But
So,
the association has to police that, correct?
the association what?
Has to police that.
Yes.
And they're part of the community, they're actually residents of the community.
Absolutely.
And are those rules written, or they will be written by the association when they're developed?
They will be written and submitted to Mr. Breslin during the process of preliminary planning.
Okay, they'll be written before the
Preliminary planning,
Okay.
absolutely.
And another question about, I'm assuming that the dark ram are basements.
Hang on, sir, hang on, there's a lot of talking in the audience, if we could just please hang on a little longer and be respectful to the person at the podium. Okay.
Is the dark ram basements, catch basins?
I think there's steep slopes. The engineer said it.
Where are they selling it to the community?
Slopes, is there catch basins up there?
This is the tentative plan isn't
Oh, I
engineered.
understand that, but I mean, all that water is going to be going down into that creek that goes under 113, that goes down into the park and into the river. And the sediment buildup there right now is, huge. Just a concern. And the other concern I have is that the intersection of Old State and Second Avenue is a blind intersection, very blind, very dangerous. Is there a plan to change that, and maybe that's something that's going to come later, but you can't have that intersection where, again, something short, you can't see it.
That will be worked out between our traffic engineer and the township traffic engineer.
Next? Anyone else? Okay.
Nicholas Harrison, 112 Bennington Road. I'm not up here, to go over the rules and regulations and ask you guys questions. I'm assuming that everybody up here on the board is a resident of the township, is that correct? You're elected officials. I live right behind.
That's not, we are residents, and we are not elected officials.
I live right behind that triangle to the far left. I bought my house because I considered it, and I still consider it right now as it sits, without that monstrosity, as probably one of the most beautiful pieces of land in this township. I can sit here, arise questions of a shoehorn, because this clearly does not fit the definition of the exception of this. I drive my son every day through that 113 corridor, passing all that green land, and he even says time and time again, Daddy, look how beautiful that area is. Does anybody up here behind the board live in a thoroughfare passing this area, or are you just seeing this on a creek like this?
I pass through it a lot, yes.
Do you live around this area?
Yes.
Would you want this?
That's not a question I'm gonna answer at this point.
That's the question, yeah.
Well, you clearly know, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, this row right here, that will argue with that. This is not a use under the exception. This is a shoehorn, and everybody, including this row, and you guys.
Everybody knows it.
Are falling back on the Worcester decision. This does
Exactly.
not fit it.
Exactly.
You all know that this does not fit it.
Exactly.
Us here in the room, these township residents, can fight, and we should make this as hard as we can for this line of people right here. Because they're all in it for the money, not preserving this beautiful land. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job.
Next? Nobody else?
None listed.
None listed? Anybody else want to speak? here today, folks, can we get a list of everybody that's spoken?
Assuming that they will be listed in the minutes when the minutes are adopted and approved on the, assuming we have them by the January 4th meeting.
January meeting.
Based on workload, we try to have them for the end of the month, but for the holidays.
No? Anybody else? One more time, okay?
Can I say a couple things, please?
Oh, please, Dave.
Try to wrap it up. Basically, I think, and I understand from the point of view of people living there that may not be happy.
Why don't you face the crowd, buddy?
Bottom line is, the township zoned this for way more units than we are asking for. Mr. Grace, in 28
Turn around, man.
says that in his professional opinion, we meet the conditions for residential care facility. The county planning commission said.
Come on, face the crowd, buddy.
Believes this project is consistent
Gutless.
with the township's current zoning. So the professional planners are saying that we do meet the criteria. Your solicitor has also said that. And I think you're aware, when we're dealing with the subdivision land development ordinance, you have no discretion. So if we meet the criteria of the ordinance, which we're willing to do, then you've got to approve the plan. The conditional use is a permitted use. It's not a variance, it's not something outside the ordinary.
It says you.
It's a use that is allowed provided we meet the conditions, which frankly are very simple to meet. So I understand you're getting a lot of input from people who are just saying, I don't like it, I don't like the traffic, I don't like the animals, I don't like this, I don't like that. The problem is that you recommend it to the supervisors.
Yeah, well, we're not ready to do that tonight. We're not gonna do that tonight, and you know that, Ed. And I appreciate you, telling us what our jobs are, but,
Yeah, really.
we know that what we have to do, and we know the rules, and we have Mr. President, when we don't know the rules, he makes sure that we know the rules. So, I appreciate you giving us that education.
We envisioned a couple of nights on this because we know that there's a lot of public opinion on it. And I don't know, Jeff, when we were next looking at having it on the agenda.
It's the second meeting of January, and of course, my calendar's not up, so I have to quickly pull up that date.
We don't want to have it be a situation where there are people who, for whatever reason, couldn't make it tonight. There was kind of stated several times, people said, oh, I only found out about this at the last second, I haven't had a chance to formulate my thoughts. So since we have a time decision, we would at least put it off for at least one more meeting for comment.
Yeah, and I think that, the comments were made about, digesting the documents and looking at I know we gotta give people a chance to do that. And I think that's only fair too, that they get that chance to digest the documents. So, there's not gonna be any votes or nothing done tonight.
January 18th.
January 18th is the next time this is on the agenda. Now, there's a planning commission meeting before that.
There's a planning commission on January 4th.
Right, but this will not be on the agenda. Now, you can come and comment on it. You always have a section where you can comment on non-agenda items. But this specifically will not be on the agenda that night. It will be January 18th. 7 o'clock.
You heard it here.
Same bad time, same bad chance.
Well, and it would be better for anybody who does want to comment, to come when it's scheduled and not take advantage of the next meeting where we have the off-the-agenda comments, because it's better if people are here who can answer questions. That really wouldn't be as productive if you come to the one on the 4th. It's better to come to the one on the 18th.
For sure. And I welcome folks to please read the documents. I understand Joe's point. I mean, I know that.
Don't change it at the last minute.
But, the court's ruled, and, we can't change the court.
A court ruled.
We can't make up rules to satisfy us. The court still makes those rules. So we're gonna take that into account also.
A court ruled, not the court.
Invite it.
I got a hand back there. You come up here, maybe if you want to speak. This will be the last one, unless, Jeff, is this,
I have no one else listed.
Yeah, no one else is listed, so we're gonna take this young lady in.
Yes, Wendy Weatherall, I live, 331 Meadowview Drive, Providence. I'd just like to say, I've lived in homeowner developments, and as these gentlemen said, be covered by a homeowners association. I know that homeowners associations elect people, and as time changes, they can certainly change the rules. So they could certainly change that rule from 60 feet plus, 55 Plus or to whatever they want in their homeowners association. So let's please keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I get
Yeah, any other comments? Thanks for coming out here tonight, appreciate it. So Jeff, what's on our future agenda?
Let me just get around it.
Jeff?
Okay.
Okay,
So-
here's our agenda, Jeff.
We have no other meetings scheduled for this month. We canceled the December 21st meeting, we did that a few weeks ago. January 4th, we have reorganization. That will be the vote for chair, vice chair, secretary, and Lover's Lane will be on that application. They've submitted a revised plan, you all have that. We have some reviews of it, we're still waiting on some others. Springport School District has come back with some changes to their minor subdivision that you saw maybe 6 months ago now. It's been quite a while. So you've already given a recommendation on that, but because there were some minor changes to the plan, I think we're gonna run it back through in front of you just to make sure it's all clean and proper. And then we have the environmental, January 18th is the planning commission meeting, and that's incorrect, it's 7 o'clock. And the environmental advisory council meeting for January 18th right now is scheduled for 6 o'clock. I think right now our plan for that meeting is to have reorganization, as we do with every first meeting. And I was talking to Sarah Sato today, she's gonna find a couple other members of EACs from regionally, that they're in the area, and have them come give you some information.
Yeah, we talked about trying to see what other people are doing. So
Yeah.
we can get some
Yeah, I think that was what you requested for the last one, so we'll have that.
Right.
We'll make it a relatively short meeting, just because we'll have this meeting.
Yes,
again afterwards.
I was gonna suggest that maybe we could keep that one to
Yeah.
a half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah, we'll do that. And that's all I have, except to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Okay, so we have no first week, January 4th, any other comments by the board? Any feedback, comments, additional things? Nothing? Time for Ben. Thank you, Jen and Anthony, again. Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Nicole has made a motion to adjourn. I'll take a second. Second, AJ, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.